In truth, I was never ready for this. When you dared me to touch and you dared me to kiss, the pieces never fit. Don't waste your time on building this just to tear it down in fear and in spite of what this could have become. If you didn't let it die, I never captured you the way you always wanted me to. If you could just be still, gather dust, maybe we could find a way to trust. With your fingers crossed behind your back, I never thought you'd try that one again. With a blindfold on, your heart's racing. Like little kids, we fight till the bitter end. Desperate times in a desperate place. We spent lonely years in an empty space. Did it bother you? Never knowing what my heart could do. But I don't wanna rehearse, don't wanna know the way. I was flying blind, drifting through my days, hoping I would change into something brave, into something that would feel safe. If you could just be still, gather dust, maybe we could find a way to trust. With your fingers crossed behind your back, I never thought you'd try that one again. With a blindfold on, your heart's racing. Like little kids, we fight till the bitter end. We can't talk here, but you correct this. When you whisper, whisper slowly, all the pretty things you need me to hear. Oh, then you gesture with your body, what you need from me, what you need from me, what you need from me. Whoa. Your fingers crossed behind your back, I never thought you'd try that one again. With the blindfolds on, your heart's racing. Like little kids, we fight till the bitter end. Your fingers crossed behind your back, I never thought
Hey, how's it going, everybody? I'm Ben from Universal Audio, and welcome to another Office Hours. Hope you guys all had a really good weekend, made some music, had some fun, stayed safe, wore your masks, wash your hands. You know the drill. You know the drill these days. We've got a fun show for you guys today. We've got some updates that we want to highlight for you guys that you may or may not have heard of. One of them, hopefully you did, because there was a big email about it. But one of them, if you would only notice if you were monitoring the manage page inside of Luna. But before we dive in, hopefully you guys all checked out our big stream last week, the 1,000 Producer Experiment with Leggy Langdon. I went back and watched a bit of it this weekend and could finally, actually watch it as one of you guys. And man, what Leggy was able to pull off there, all in real time, dancing, singing, everything, all with you guys, with your guys' suggestions being added in real time. Yeah, that track turned out super cool. And of course, if you haven't already heard, there's the new Apollo solo. And actually this week on Thursday, if you guys are interested in kind of diving deeper into the Apollo solo, learning a little bit more about it, but most importantly, how to make the most out of it, how to design plugin chains that are optimized for the Apollo solo. I'm going to be joined with Gannon Kashua, the senior product manager, who helped us design the Arrow and the Apollo solo. And him and I, we're going to geek out. We're going to dive deep into all the aspects of using a solo for production, for recording, etc. That's going to be Thursday morning. And of course, we're back tomorrow with Fab and Lewis for some more Tales of the Switch. We're going to do some more production, and then we're taking a week off, and then we'll be back doing some strings, and then finally we'll have a big mix special, I think mid-September, where Fab's going to go deep and mix the entire track and call it a day. And then that turns into a Luna session. You guys will get to download it eventually. It's going to be really great. I'm really excited to see that one come to completion. Without further ado, let's dive into Office Hours with Matt and Drew. How you guys doing?
Morning, doing great. How you doing, Ben?
Doing great. Had some coffee. It's Monday morning.
Man, that's awesome. That I didn't know that Lewis session was that they were gonna do a Luna session for that. That's super cool.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can't string the viewers along this many weeks and then not let them get their hands on it and get in there.
That's true.
Yeah, I finally got a copy of it from Fab last week, and it's such a fun session to pull up and play, especially for mixing purposes. Like, there's just so much good material, and Lewis is just, he's a monster. But it's really cool. It's so cool. But it's all, very home, it's all recorded in his home. It's all recorded very simply. So it's not, there's like 3 drum mics, bass, guitar, vocals, some backgrounds, some synth stuff. We're going to add in some horns and strings with the Spitfire guys. And then that's kind of, keeping it simple.
Yeah, well, and that just goes to show how much of this whole game is the emotion in the song and the story and the voice, and it doesn't matter. The technology is so, it does not have to, you can do so much at home.
That's the whole idea, right? Is that you just want the technology part of it to disappear and get out of the way, so you can just focus on making music, which if you guys have been tuning in and watching the sessions, you can definitely notice those two are they're getting to focus on the music aspect of it. They get straight past the technical part into focusing on performances and all the aspects that go into being a producer, which that was another one of my favorite things from watching Leggy's broadcast. I don't know if the Jedi mind tricks that he was able to pull on everybody.
Yeah.
it's good to know that those tricks work at scale. It's not just it's not just a one-on-one in the room sort of. Let me convince you my way is the right way. He's able to extrapolate that to the entire audience, which is really fun to see.
Do you want it this way or this way? You know, and everybody, everybody's going right where he wants to go.
Exactly. It's like I knew it. But yeah. So guys, so Apollo Solo launched last week, but right along with that, there was the LA3A update, which we'll show on this on today's show as well. But another one, the sleeper, that hopefully some of you guys noticed, but you may have missed. A much requested feature for Ravel has dropped finally.
Oh yeah.
So Matt, I think you mind sharing your screen and let's walk people through what's new in Ravel.
Totally. So yeah, I may have mentioned this before it was released, but now it's actually out. So share it with you guys. Yeah, so
that's why you got to watch these shows. You never know what little tidbits you'll pick up.
Yeah, we might let something slip.
Mm-hmm. I think we let something slip about on like once every other week. It's not every single week. You're not guaranteed to slip, but we've let a few things slip here.
Yeah, people don't always catch it, but sometimes.
Yeah.
So yeah, like we teased, Ravel, you can now change the pedal noise.
Yes.
So that's basically, you guys can probably hear this. I got a sustain pedal hooked up. So I've got this piano track loaded up. It's got a compressor on it, so you can kind of hear what's going on a little bit better. But you can hear that pedal noise is pretty present, you know.
I cranked it 14 more dB too for people, so they can hear.
Oh yeah, so it's super present for everybody.
Yeah.
So yeah, it might sound kind of quiet when you're just hearing it by itself, but let me play this MIDI file, and you'll be able to kind of really tell where it pokes out. Yeah, so that's just the default setting. This particular MIDI file, the notes are like really low in velocity, which is why I have that compressor on it. So it's like the pedal noise is very, very apparent. If you were playing pretty loudly, it might not be as apparent, but for this particular kind of piece, it's pretty noticeable.
Yeah.
So in Ravel, we start from the way it looks when you open it. Click the little arrow button in the right corner here, expose that settings panel, and then this little settings cog. So down here in the bottom left corner, see pedal sound volume. Now you have 4 or 5 different options. Full is the default. That's where it was in previous versions. But you also have these lower options as well, and you can even turn it off completely, which is awesome, depending on what you're using Ravel for.
Nice. Yeah. Can we hear what that same spot sounds like on like low or min?
Yeah, let's go low. I think that'll probably still keep it kind of natural, but make it less apparent. Yeah, so it's still there. You know, it still sounds like a naturally recorded piano, but it's not jumping out of the performance as much. So.
Yeah. Well, that's a cool thing about it. I mean, for people who are wondering like why was it so loud to begin with? Because on a real piano, that's how loud it actually is. Like the Ravel was tuned to be an instrument that was perfectly emulated what a grand piano sounds like, and a real grand piano, it makes some noise when you lift on the sustain pedal.
Yeah, and especially if you're close to it. You know, if you're close to the actual instrument itself, it can be quite loud.
Yeah, and it's also designed to work with both types of sustain pedals. And some people may or may not know this. So there's that checkbox right there. So continuous pedal. There's sustain pedals that are not just on or off. There's especially newer models, and you have to have a compatible pedal and keyboard for this to work. But they will actually report from 0 to 127 or 255, whatever it is in the MIDI. So that way it actually could sense velocity. It could sense like, are you slamming on it really fast, or are you gently pressing the sustain? And it would react to that. So you could actually gently pedal if you had a continuous pedal. But myself and lots of people, most of us just have on or off for our sustain pedals. So sometimes it would just treat that as like, all right, well, it looks like you're just pedaling, so it would go kind of full effect. Yeah,
and like just to visually show it, this MIDI performance is recorded with just a on-off pedal. You can see it's just either in one position or the other. If it was as continuous, you'd kind of see these curves as it went from fully open to fully closed.
Yeah. Nice. And so now you have full control over the level of that. You can specify whether you're using continuous pedal or not. And yeah, man, it's such a really beautiful sounding instrument. We've got a cool. We worked with Corey Henry to we commissioned a piece from Corey Henry to help showcase Ravel in a trailer that's going to be coming out here in the next week or two.
That's amazing.
It's a beautiful piece.
Ridiculous. And then I guess, Ben, any Ravel owners, or if you want to demo Ravel, just head over to the manage page, right? And you'll see that there's an update, or you can see that it's actually, you can download it for the first time if you'd like, or request a demo or what have you.
Exactly. Yep. That all happens here. I'll show on my screen. So if you go to the manage page inside of Luna over here on the left-hand side, you'll see, I've already installed the update, but you'll see a blue button here that says download for the update. And also, like Drew mentioned, if you haven't started your trial or if you haven't downloaded it at all yet, this is where all that action happens. So right here in the manage page, there should be a little red dot that let you know that there's an update to one of your extensions or instruments. So yeah, that's the Ravel update. Let me check in and see if we got some questions coming in. Show us how to route drum samples to individual tracks. We can show you. So we don't have multi outputs supported in V1 of Luna, but there's some clever workarounds that we could definitely show you there about duplicating tracks and then isolating it for each sample. Let's see. Keep on scrolling up. See, can you use Vocaline in Luna? Not yet. So Luna's, everything about it right now is real time. There's no offline processing like what Vocaline would use. Drew, have you seen anyone have a workaround for using something like Vocaline?
Well, you can certainly, Vocaline, and the other one is Revoice Pro. Anything that has a standalone version, Melodyne Studio, if you wanted to as well, where you can do some consolidating and then exporting the files, and send them into something like Revoice Pro and then bring them back in. I'm not aware of any that are workarounds for the real time aspect of it. Oh, I'm sorry, the offline aspect of it. That's within Luna.
Yeah. That's probably one of those cases. We fully know, Luna, this is 1.0 of Luna, so there's tons of features that we know people need to be able to do those sorts of workflows. But the good part is being able to export your files, either just exporting the clips straight off the timeline, or bouncing down, committing the sounds from your tracks, and then taking it into a standalone program like that. That workflow is super easy.
Yeah. And it's one of the cool things about Luna is, we understand not everybody's going to want to switch 100% to it, on right away. So it's like, I find it, I use it for its strengths, and there's plenty of strengths. And then there's times where you need to go somewhere else, and that's cool too. So,
why is the meter on a track showing a different level than the master meter, with track fader and master meter both at unity gain? So Alex, high likelihood there's a few things that could go on, but number one that I would think of is if you have a mono track. If you have a mono track centered in center pan, it's going to look like it's 3 dB louder than what's coming out on the master, and that's a thing called pan law that makes it so that the way the sounds that are going to both left and right don't come out twice as sometimes they come out twice as loud as what you want them to, right, Drew?
Yeah, so you just pan, to see what it's really doing, it just pan it hard left or hard right, and then you'll notice that side will be the same as your, as the mono signal feeding that bus.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there's a good question here from Arthur. For Galaxy Echo, does the input drive affect the dry signal or just the wet signal? That's a good question. I'm pretty sure it's the dry signal. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but as long as you're driving into the plugin, right? So if you use it as an insert, not as a send, and you were using the wet dry blend, if you crank up the input, you're cranking up the input into the device. So I'm pretty sure that passes through. But when I pull up a session later, we can check that out together.
Yeah, I would think so. It seemed that but you'd have to test it to be 100% sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If we don't have the Neve summing, I see that one can still use the meters. Is that correct? Interesting. So I guess, can you use the Neve summing meters with an expired demo, essentially? Is that kind of what we're saying here?
I think maybe they're thinking, can we still use the VU meter on the mains, I guess, without having Neve summing? Yeah, and yeah, the answer is no.
Yeah.
It's you need to have that. That's part of the workflow, and it's part of being able to manage the gain staging through the Neve Summing plugin is to be able to have that meter. So if you don't have it, um,
All right, one more question, then we'll show you. I want to show you guys. I want to have Drew show you guys the new LA3A features. What's the shortcut to insert a new double chorus when you already or only originally had one chorus and the verse is already laid down? So the shortcut is to use your timeline, select the area that you want to double, and then hit Shift D, and that puts you into the shift workflow and it duplicates that section. So that's the easiest way. And of course, the shift command, shift X is shift cut, where it would cut that region out and shorten an area. And yeah, shift D is to double it. Shift V will just keep on pasting and inserting as you go. So yeah, the shift button is the key to those that workflow, and you can also find that in the workflow menu under the editing area.
Yeah, and you can also insert space with Command I. So if you wanted to, maybe not exactly duplicate your chorus, but just extend it, you can select the area you want to duplicate by, and then Command I, and it'll insert that amount of space.
And it'll give you blank space, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Yeah, make sure you use the all tracks ruler, at the top of the page, because that'll let you select everything in that section without having to click individual clips and select individual tracks.
Nice. Oh, there's a good one here from Dan. Hey legends, this is how you definitely get me to answer your question. Thank you. Am I missing something with the new reverse function? At the moment, I have to unplug my MIDI keyboard, plug in an old mouse, and right click. I'm using a Magic Mouse at the moment. So a couple of solutions for you. One, you can configure Magic Mice to have 2 clicks, a left and a right click.
They call it secondary click. Yeah,
secondary
in the preferences, it'll be called secondary click.
Mm-hmm. So I would probably recommend that. There's lots of good stuff hidden in the right click or the secondary click for things. But in the interim, you can, I believe it's control click acts as if it's a right click. So control click on a clip, and that should pull that up for you. All right, so yeah, Drew, let's talk about this LA3A. So this one we sent out an email for. We let everybody who owns an LA3A know about this, but people who don't own the LA3A don't know what they're missing at the moment.
Yeah.
What do we do?
Yeah, so let's talk about the LA3A in general. It's a lot of people are familiar with its bigger brother and its predecessor, the LA2A, which is an optical limiter. And if you're not familiar with optical limiters, they're a really clever and unique way of handling changes in gain. It literally uses a little light bulb, this little photo cell, and then on the other side there's this photovoltaic receptor, which basically can convert light into voltage. So the basic premise here is that as your signal comes into the compressor, as the voltage goes up, as the audio gets louder, the light will burn brighter, and the photovoltaic cell will sense that brightness and turn down the output. So this is, the whole concept of optical compression, and it's really unique. It's super cool. It's been around for many, many decades. It's the LA. I don't know if the LA2A was the first one, but it was certainly one of the early ones. And it's really cool. It has a very smooth character to it. You'll notice, pure optical compressors have no attack and release, because the attack and release times are inherent in the physics, right? Light and these things only work in so fast or so slow. So anyway, so the LA2A, the LA2A was a 2 version. The LA3A was it's a solid state version, and I think, Ben, you mentioned this. It's kind of like a lot of people characterize the LA3A as if the LA2A and 1176 had a baby, right? They kind of have that vibe. So let me share my screen here, and we'll go into Luna. And
anyone that had the LA3A prior to last week, if you owned it and you used it, you probably remembered once beyond how awesome it sounds and how good it is to use. You probably also noticed one thing about it, which was that it was one of the smallest GUIs left in the UAD catalog.
It sure was, yeah.
Because it was released well over 10 years ago, I believe. It was. Yeah,
I don't remember the exact release date, but yeah, it's certainly early on, in the early stages when computer screen resolution was not what it is now, right? You had much, less pixel counts. So yeah, it was always really great sounding. Like it was regardless of the GUI, like it was always one of those plugins that is like, it's so simple, it's so easy, to use. Let me just go ahead and put this up here while we're talking. And so it was never, and it was always really regarded for its sonics. But yeah, the GUI was super small. And now, as you can see, it's definitely bigger.
Yep.
It's not as big as some other ones. It's not as, it's not like we went crazy, like, it's not as large as the Distressor, because really it's a 2-knob interface, right?
Yeah.
Because of it being optical and because it doesn't have attack and release controls, you really just need a couple of controls. We have on the right-hand side here, we have the peak reduction, which is basically the amount of compression, right, from 0 to 10. And on the left-hand side is you have your makeup gain. So the idea there is that you would want to be able to toggle it off and on, and have that, the unity gain, or at least close to it, right? You don't want to trick yourself. It's always a good idea to gain stage properly through a processor, especially compression, to make sure that you're really hearing the improvement that it's doing and you're not just getting tricked by level.
Yeah.
And so also over here on the right-hand side, underneath of the peak reduction, we have a comp limb switch. And this is, it changes the behavior of the compressor. In comp mode, it's a gentler curve. It's going to, just be a bit more of a gentle compressor. In the limb mode, it becomes more aggressive. That curve intensifies. And most of the times, most users are going to probably keep it in the comp mode. In fact, the limb mode, the difference really only starts to be heard when you really lay into it, right? You have to really be doing some heavy amounts of compression to do that. And then, so what's cool, so in addition to the GUI, these guys, what we've also added here is a mix control and an HF, or high frequency control. And so the mix control is pretty straightforward. It's what you'd expect in a lot of modern compressors have a mix control. It's a screw that you can click and drag to change it. Or if you have, there's a couple of little hit zones that you can use. First of all, if you just want to go 50-50, if you just click on mix, it'll go straight to 50-50.
Nice.
Yeah. So we've got a little hidden hit zone there. And then of course you also have the ability you can just click the plus sign. So the plus sign it's basically 10 things forward. I'm sorry, 10 steps all the way around. So you can click the minus and it'll sort of increment through those 10 steps.
Nice.
So you've got a couple of things.
And of course, yeah, you can just grab it and run, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you can just drag. So same thing with the high frequency filter. You've got, you have the ability to just click on the zones. I personally, I know this is probably, it's pretty small even on this enlarged GUI, but this filter, it's pretty unique, and it's the same filter right out of the LA2A. We took the same filter and we put it into the LA3A, and you definitely want to play around with this, especially on material that has a lot of low frequency content. But even certainly for bass and things like that. But I have found that even for things like background vocals, like it allows you to tailor the behavior of the compressor to being to treat things a little bit more gently. As far as and let me just bring up I've got a couple of instances of it here on these background vocals, and it allows you to tailor the behavior of the compressor. In other words, by filtering out some of the bottom end, you're gonna have to up your peak reduction to compensate, because you're actually telling the compressor to sort of ignore certain frequencies. So that's expected. When you pull down that HF, you're going to pull up the peak reduction, and it basically takes the compressor and has it focus more on the mid range, right? It becomes more mid sensing, which, as I said, is really great for bass, but it's also good for things like this background vocal demo I'm about to show you.
Yeah, and so it's really important for people to know. So that is, what you're adjusting there is you're not adjusting what you hear. You're adjusting what the side chain of this compressor is hearing. So so the amount of compression is the only thing that's changing here. The audio that's being passed through is still full force. It's not gonna change the tone drastically of what you're doing. It's just gonna change how the compressor responds, which is why it's such a powerful tool. So yeah, when you have lots of low frequency stuff, or even if you have stuff that's very sibilant, you can use this control to really control the amount that those are affecting the peak reduction.
Yeah. In fact, I mean, if you put that filter really far to the left, you're going to ignore a lot of the bottom end, and as you cranked up the peak reduction, you could get it's not going to be as precise as a de-esser, but sort of high frequency type limiting, which can be nice. The other thing that the LA3A is known for is, not only was it a cool compressor, but it did have, it's modeling an analog device, and I have it here in this example with some background vocals, and I'm gonna just play you a little bit of it, and you can hear. Let me make sure I'm where the backgrounds are. And so when I'm going to bypass this, and you'll hear not only is it smoothing things out, and I have the high frequency filters up a little bit. This is the mix is at 100%, and I'm hitting them relatively, trying to contain them pretty good. But not only is it a good leveler, right? But it also does have, it has some sheen to it. When I do this, when I turn these on and off, you'll hear, like, if you focus on the top end, right, you're going to hear that these background vocals sort of get a sheen to them. They sort of get a silkiness to them, in addition to being smoothed out. So let's hear that. I'm going to start with them on.
I'm tired of living this way, feeling it more every day. I'm tired of watching my hair turn gray.
So let me run that again, and halfway through I'll turn it off.
I'm tired of living this way, feeling it more every day. I'm tired of watching my hair turn gray. I'm tired of waiting on you.
So it's subtle, but it's like not only are these guys getting leveled out, but they're also they're also getting that sort of sheen and that silkiness that kind of keeps them on top of the mix and helps them kind of tuck in there.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice. And that's kind of where like the LA3A shines, right? It's like I've always used on background vocals, also like guitars, basses, like just it's nice having a compressor where you just are like, you know what, I just want some compression. I just want to hold these together a little bit, without drastically changing the sound or really having to eat up a ton of DSP. These are
and they're super simple. 2 knobs. It's like I remember working in studios that had these. These would have been like your second tier compressors, right? These were the ones you had your expensive compressors on on the lead vocal and stuff, and then you'd be like, oh, LA3s. I got a couple LA3s here. These guys are going to be my my workhorse compressors, and they're super simple. The recalls are easy.
Right? They're the 2 half racks. So yeah, you did see a pretty standard issue studio would have like one LA2A, like the 2 compressor that that's your lead vocal chain, and then having these available for background tasks or guitars, like that's it's really where they live on that for so many people's mixes.
Yeah. I have another quick little demo here. This is on a guitar, and this is again subtle, but this will give you an idea about the tone shaping. Right, this is a pretty saturated guitar solo, and this. It's leveling it out, but distorted guitar is already pretty. It doesn't really need compression. So here you're kind of like, it's more of a vibe thing where, and if you listen to this, it's pretty subtle, but LA3As have that sort of character where they're able to sort of decloud things. They like clean the low mids somehow. Kind of Pultecs do it too. So let's just hear that. We'll start with it off. Oh, let's go to the solo, of course. Turn it on. And back off. And I've got that one gain stage real nice where it's like there's no level change there. It's just that subtle clarity in the low mids and that subtle change in the in that low mid and that clarity that it can kind of do. So
yeah, man, it's such a good plugin. We couldn't really see your DSP meter there for that one, Drew, but I can show an example coming up here. But that's one of the other nice things about the LA3A. It's a fairly lightweight plugin, relative to some of the new LA2A collection, the 1176 collection, which again makes it a really good one to kind of use on multiple tracks. And yeah, so what a nice update. It looks great, sounds great. It's got a couple of new functionality tweaks to it. So yeah, if you already own the LA3A, make sure you download and update to the latest UAD software. That's how you're gonna get this plugin.
9.12.2. Right? That's make sure you have that.
Yep, uaudio.com/download. Super easy place to find that. And then of course, if you haven't already checked out the LA3A, or if this is your first time hearing about it, highly recommend it's got a free 14-day trial. So definitely recommend trying that one out. Try it on some of your guitars, on some of your background vocals, on as much as we're saying it's a background vocal device, it is really good on lead vocals too. There's
yeah. And the DSP thing, I didn't even, the DSP thing, I'm glad you brought that up because I didn't even think about that. It's, being an older plugin, it does have a lower DSP footprint, but still sounds great. It still sounds fantastic.
Yeah. So yeah, if you need something that's kind of lightweight, and like Drew said, it's a great mixture between an 1176 and an LA2A. So you're getting the response and there's a great thing about that optical element is it's just such a gentle, smooth style compression, where you start cranking the peak reduction and you're like, it says I'm doing a lot, but does it really sound like I'm doing a lot? No, it has this natural.
You can't mess it up. It's one of those. Yeah, it's like it's foolproof. You cannot mess it up. It's just two knobs. Just crank it and don't worry about that meter. Let it. It can be doing a lot. I've done records where even on LA2s the gain reduction meter just pinned on every vocal point. It's like it's a good thing.
Sounds great until they take a breath, right? And then there's like
yeah. You do have to be careful about that, but
but again, that's where something like having the mix knob now really comes in handy. So if you're doing what Drew says, if you're just pinning it, if you got the meter really cranking on it, and then they take a breath and you're like, wow, it feels like they sucked all the air out of my ears. You can use that mix knob to get a nice 50-50. So being able to go parallel inside of the plugin without having to instantiate a bus and set up a send return thing to do parallel compression. The fact that that's built into the compressor now is also a huge feature that I'm really glad they not only updated the GUI, but they also updated some of these little creature features that are making using it that much nicer. Nice. All right, let's check in on the questions here. Open up a new tab, check it out after stream. Awesome. And oh, there were a little bit of dropouts, but that's the internet for you guys. If you guys watched, that's nothing compared to last week.
Oh yeah, I had a few dropouts.
Yeah, it's all good. So all the more reason for you guys to try it out yourselves. As much as we love showing you guys how everything sounds here, it's nothing compared to trying it out yourselves. So yeah, highly recommend pulling in on a session, seeing what's up. Lots of feature requests. Obviously, hit the feedback button. Ross, we talked about Vocaline a little bit ago. Century Channel Strip has the basic LA3A built in. It's similar. It's basically it looks the same, right? It's a single knob compressor, but the algorithm in there I believe is a slightly either a tweaked one or a different one, right, Matt?
Yeah, it's LA2A style, but not exactly the same as an LA2A.
Yeah, it had to be. It has an auto makeup gain circuit to make this gain staging really simple in that plugin. So regardless, it's a tweaked version of whatever algorithm they use. So
yeah. Nice. Enjoying the office hours last month. Will Shanks mentioned improved VU metering after the release. Do you know what was specifically improved? In the LA3A. I'm not sure what they changed about the VU meter. I'm not sure if there was anything in the release notes about that. Was there?
I don't think so. He's referring to the new LA3A. I don't remember anything specific that was worthy of release notes. So maybe it's a tweaker thing that Will might have mentioned or.
Will always giving away the secrets. Over Marcus, yep, you called it. DBX 160 is also screaming for a GUI update. I 100% agree. Feedback. A lot of people asking about control surfaces. Yep, that's we're hearing the feedback from you guys. So keep again, it's super high up on the list, but so I know the devs are looking into that and figuring out the best possible way to bring that to you guys. As to when, we don't know. Stay tuned, right? Any advice as to why I might still have latency with Shape with ARM activated? Interesting. Any ideas there, Matt, about so if you have ARM activated, in theory, right, it's supposed to be removing the buffer, making it so the audio from Shape is getting to your speakers as fast as possible. Is there anything that could get in the way of that?
If you were sending the track to a bus that had, or if you had plugins directly on the bus, there's some plugins that aren't very good for input monitoring, like ATR 102 or Precision Multiband. There's a few others. If you stack them, a few 3 or 4 plugins deep, you might get some noticeable latency. So yeah, first things first, disable all the plugins on the channel, see if you're still getting latency. If it goes away, then it's likely a delay comp issue with plugins. But if you're still having the issue with no plugins loaded, that's definitely odd.
Well, one thing you could do for sure is to make sure this can be virtual channel related. So one of the things you can do is when you arm the track in Luna, switch over to console and make sure you're seeing shape come through on a pair of your virtuals.
Yeah.
If you go to console and you do not see open virtuals passing signal, then there could be a problem where Luna's trying to use some virtuals that aren't available, and you can usually fix that by defaulting your IO or something. Anything to add to that, Matt?
Yeah, no, that's a great suggestion. I mean, it's not outside the realm of possibility too that it could look like you're in ARM mode in Luna, but it's not actually in ARM mode. So toggling ARM mode off and back on would be a good step too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've run into that once or twice, and yeah, just toggling that arm button sometimes clears up issues like that. The other really important thing to remember is that you have it record armed. That was the other big thing I've seen a few people run into with Shape is, when you just select the track and you start playing with it, you're like, oh, you get monitoring, right? Without having to specify either input monitoring or record monitoring. But when you do that, it doesn't put it into the ARM path. It doesn't go into the ARM path until you record enable it. So, if you're just clicking on the name of it, and especially if you've got a high latency session, it's going to continue to go through all the buses and all the delay compensation. But yeah, as soon as you actually hit record and you're in ARM mode, it should pull it out of the main fader and go straight to either your monitor output or your Q output. Nice. All right, we'll answer a couple more questions. But let me open up a session here, and we can talk about a few of these other show you guys. We had a few questions come in from people asking about loop recording and punching in and punching out inside of Luna. So I've got a little demo here. I can show that, but I can also answer a few other questions while I've got a session open.
Shelton had a good question. When I select MIDI notes via the piano roll, I can't change the pitch using the arrow keys. It scrolls through versions. Check your keyboard. Make sure the shift key isn't like pressed by accident or something, because that shift up and down is how you scroll through versions. So it sounds like shift might be stuck on your keyboard.
Mm-hmm. And what's the shortcut for going up and down an octave?
Well, yeah.
Isn't that shift?
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah. So you might actually be in clips view. You know what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what
probably
it is,
in clips view. Yeah.
Yep. So here I can share my screen and show what Matt's talking about here. So what you're saying, Matt, is if you are over here, let's see, I've got some MIDI right here. So right now I'm in notes view, right? So if I if I select a note and then hit the up and down arrow, I'm now moving those notes up and down in pitch. And if I go shift up and down, I'm going up and down an octave. But I think what Matt's saying is that if you can easily get out of notes view into clips view, and you can see here, it kind of looks the same, right? But now when I go shift up and down, I'm now going through the versions over here on the left. So yeah, that's simple ways to click where it says clips, put in the notes view, and then now, sometimes I also find that you need to see, like right here, I did a selection at the bottom. Notice, so I've selected inside my clip, but notice how these notes don't quite look the same. They don't look like this. So now when I'm doing shift up and down, I'm going through the versions again. It's because the notes are not selected. But as soon as I select the notes, now shift up and down is taking those up and down the octave. So yeah, that's and this is kind of the thing. The thing about Luna, right, is it's all contextual control. So it's depending on what's selected, depending on what you're doing. Some things like that do change their behavior. So it's important to kind of know what you're selected on at the moment. And yeah, like if I just select the whole clip by clicking on the header here. Again, it's thinking I'm working on the clip and I'm not working on the notes yet. So it's important to get in here and select notes like that to do to go up and
that's
down.
just muscle. That's just muscle memory. Once once you see what's going on, and then you get used to the way it's working, and then your hands just sort of do it by themselves.
Yep. I'm using the keys on the virtual keyboard. I guess if you have the virtual keyboard turned on, does that change any of this functionality, Matt?
No, the arrow key should still pass through. The virtual keyboard just uses the letter keys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, it's still responding as expected there.
Yeah.
Nice. Let's see. There was another good one that came in here, and we may see. Lionel is asking, can you guys go over using a send on the main bus to a bus which has sonar works in order to monitor through it? Also talk about how this changes listening to soloed buses, etc. So I believe here we go. So for Sonar, I don't have SonarWorks on this machine, but I'll show you the workflow for it. But I won't be able to show you exactly how it all works. But essentially, what you're going to do is you're going to use Ascend, hit the plus button here. Call this my Sonar monitor. I would advise to not put the new summing on there because you want it to be a faithful copy of what you're listening to. I'm in ARM mode right now, so I believe that's why it is giving me the red. No, I guess, Drew, maybe you know about this. Being able to send off of a main fader. Oh, it's because it's looping back. So why is this red? It's because right now this is trying to send straight back into itself. So Luna, thank you, Luna, for not causing a crazy feedback loop right now.
Yeah,
good Luna, well done. So, but what I can do is I can come over here and I can select an alternate output. So 5/6, and that is still. I wonder. I'm gonna solo safe. Try taking it out and putting it back in. There we go. So now that it's no longer causing a feedback, all I did was I removed the send and added it back. So now Luna is like, okay, cool, you're good. We're not sending it to the wrong place. So you can either send this to physical output, which is connected to your monitors, which you could do by selecting monitor left right, or you could send it to a different hardware output, or you could send it. You could just send it to nothing essentially, and then use the Q outputs. Which if you're doing SonarWorks, odds are you're working with calibrated headphones. So if you set that to send to Q1 or Q2, whatever you have your headphones connected to, you can now come in here. We're gonna pretend ADA flanger is my SonarWorks. It's gonna make for a very interesting mix, trust me. So now main fader sent to Sonar monitor ends up on this bus with no Neve summing instantiated on it. Add the SonarWorks insert here, and then I can either be sending to the Qs, which would be my headphones, or I can send it to the monitor left to right, or a physical hardware output, if that's what you're rocking. That's the. I believe that's everything you need to get SonarWorks working, right, guys?
Well, it just would be and you just acknowledging though that if ARM mode, when you're in ARM mode, whatever track is flowing through that won't go through that because it's disconnected from that bus. So that there's just no way around that. It's going to go through there no matter what.
Super important note. Yep. So ARM mode, the trick of ARM mode is that it bypasses anything that causes latency, which includes especially the main fader or any sends that aren't in ARM mode. So exactly.
Hey Ben, what about I'm sorry to interrupt, but what about Audio Hijack, hosting SonarWorks in Audio Hijack and pulling the mon left in, and would that also bring the ARM tracks in? But then you'd be subject to latency, I guess.
Correct. Yep. Then you're still dealing with the latency of going into Hijack to process through SonarWorks and then to your outputs.
Right.
So that's this is the closest, probably the closest way to do it. A little bit of a pain to set it up all the time. And as you mentioned, Drew, if you set up something in Hijack, we're using Audio Hijack in the background for all these broadcasts to be able to send audio to and from each other without having to configure our sessions each time. You can do something like that. And I've seen some people set it up so that SonarWorks is just always instantiated and listening to the monitor outputs and then going to either a dedicated headphone out or back to a different set of speakers. So that is not what I was planning on showing you guys, but hopefully that helps. And let me just remove that. Let me turn
these Q&A things are cool because people just come up with stuff that make us think on the fly.
Exactly.
Totally.
So loop recording. Let me grab a guitar. Best way to show you guys is by playing guitar badly and showing you how loop record makes my life better. So a couple of questions from people have really been around, how does loop recording work? How do I set up the loop? What's this yellow thing doing up here? Is this the loop? Just how does this all work? So let me just zoom out my session completely. I've got it in snap mode. So let's say, typically the way I like to work with loop mode is kind of identify an area that I want to add a part, select that area, and now you can see this blue area here. So this is kind of my selected part of the timeline. if I press play right now, it's going to play that, but it's only going to play it once because I don't have loop turned on. So I can either click loop right here. If I have a number keypad, so I can use the number 4. It's a little shortcut to turn this on and off. And so now loop record is on. If I hit record, it's gonna drop me in and start recording. There we go. So as I was recording, we started on V1. That was the playlist, the version that was here when I started the take. And that's, as you can see, it looks like that it leaves the last full take that you do on the playlist. It assumes that if you press stop, you probably liked what you just heard. that's the assumption, right? Yeah. But as you'll notice, I've also got take 2. This was the very first time around. So I didn't play because it just dropped me into record. I wasn't ready to go. So I picked it up and then let it come back around on the loop. And then take 3 in V1, you can see these are exactly the same because that was technically take 3. It just automatically promoted that to V1 for me. All good. That's how you do. That's loop recording. Thank you very much. I'm Ben Linda. So what would be much more helpful for being able to be prepared to drop in to record is to have some pre-roll. So to get into the pre-roll, so up here in the workflow menu up at the top, click on the solid dot for the record workflow. You'll see pre-roll, post-roll. By default, in a clean new session, they're going to be turned off. They're going to be set to 0. But there's a really handy shortcut. So of course you can come up here, you can turn them on, you can tell it I want 2 bars, and it does it like that. But there's a great shortcut. If you hold Option, and just like how I selected the area I wanted to record into, if I do Option and then click where I want my pre-roll to start, you can see this little line up here is adjusting. So if I want to start 3 bars out, 4 bars out, you can start a random amount. It doesn't matter. So now I can add a bar pre-roll, and now it's going to record. So if I press record and I don't make a new version, it's going to think I want to record on top of version 1, which is probably fine because if I didn't like any of those takes, I don't want to necessarily keep them. But thankfully, as we already pointed out, take 3 contain. I've got take 2 and take 3, which contain my first take. So I'm not going to be losing anything this time around. But I can press record, and it's going to do the same behavior. But now I'm going to get a 1 bar fill. That word. Go. So you can see in my versions list, again, V1, I've got the last full take that I did. Again, it's making the assumption what you landed on is what you want, but I can always get back to my early takes from the first time around. I can get to the take before that, and again, the final take and version 1 are the same. So I love that it keeps all these alternates here. And as you can see, there was that little tail to that loop, and this is something that's super important to me when it comes to loop recording. Literally, the only thing I hate most about loop record is when it actually cuts off your audio and you have no access to like the bit before or after. So you can see here, if I bring my cursor down to the bottom of this clip, I can actually pull out the end of that region a little bit, and I can get that tail to this audio. And similarly, I can pull out the front of it, and as you can see, it's revealing the entire take before it actually punched in. So this way, again, if you want to grab, actually came in on beat 4 here, this allows me to reveal what was happening prior to the loop, which is something that some people you may not know, that you can actually pull this stuff out. And this is kind of the beauty of working inside a loop record, is that you get access to that sort of stuff. So then the question that actually kind of prompted us doing this segment was I was talking with Pete Thorne, and he was kind of wondering, he wanted to be able to punch in and punch out on something. So let me show you guys how you can do that. So this is not not necessarily for loop record. As soon as you go into loop record, it doesn't care about post roll. It's gonna loop around and around. But let's say you're working on a solo and you want to nail just this one. It doesn't even have to be on the grid. I'm gonna make my selection here not on the grid now. So I just want to replace this little phrase of my thing. So I'm gonna use the Option key to set my pre-roll. So I hit Option, brought it back out to a bar. So I want to hear from here. I want it to punch in here, and I want it to punch out and keep on playing a little, play to the end of the phrase. So again, I'm using the Option key, and you can see up here on my timeline these little blue wings around my blue region here. If I turn off loop record, now when I press record, what it's going to do is it's going to start playing back. It's just going to play. It's going to play, and then it's going to drop me in and record right here. Last thing I'm going to do to configure this, though, is you can see over here on the left, I'm in input monitor mode, which means no matter what, I'm just going to hear myself. So that means I'm not going. If I just press record right now, I actually wouldn't hear any of this audio. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take myself out of input, and now it's just in record. So I'm only going to hear myself when either the playback is not rolling or when I've actually recorded my track. So as a one man band over here, this is the workflow that if you want to punch something in, if you want to punch yourself in to record a vocal, to record a solo, to record literally anything, this is the way to punch in and punch out on a specific phrase.
Well, and Ben, just not to interrupt, but like if you wanted to hear both playback and the live input, that's what console tracking mode's all about.
Exactly.
So yeah, you actually have the choice here to whether or not you want to hear your live signal in pre-roll and post-roll, just so you know.
Absolutely. And for more on console tracking mode, watch Drew's amazing deep dive into ARM, where I think about 3/4 of the way through that show, we touched on how console tracking mode works and how to set it up. But yeah, essentially it allows you to listen to your live input as well as your recorded audio without having to mess with it. So here we go. Let's pre-roll, punch this in, and let's post-roll out. So I'll show you how this works. Just like that. So this is, I know a lot of vocalists that record themselves, a lot of guitarists that record them. This is kind of an essential workflow to know, right? Is being able to get in, get out, and not have to try to hold your pick, hit the record button. When you're doing vocals, it's a little easier to punch yourself in and out, but especially when you're doing guitar or piano or anything that requires both hands, this is the way, man. Select the area that you want. Option click to select your pre-roll. Option click to set a post roll if you want that. Being completely honest, I barely ever use post roll. Most of the time I just capture the thing I want, and then I'm cool to let it stop, and then I just want to hear it back to see if I nailed it or not. So yeah, that's pre-roll, post-roll, loop recording, and then I guess to answer the question, what's this yellow thing? What's the loop? There's a ruler up here that's dedicated to loop. And that's because it's a dedicated loop. Essentially what this is it's a great way to be able to quickly to know where your loop is and always get back to it. So let's say, I find myself using this every once in a while, especially when just kind of creating an idea. If you're working on a 4-bar loop, it lets you quickly get back to that looped area. So I can just click on, this was the area of the song that I'm just kind of jamming and trying to come up with parts and ideas and arrangements. I can just click on that orange bar, and now I'm back into that loop. But it doesn't restrict you from using loop mode. As you can see now, it's all lit up, but it's, say I wanted to move on and, not necessarily move my loop markers over. What I can do is I can just select over here, and now I'm loop recording where I've selected. So, I think some people, especially coming from Logic, right? You kind of get used to like, this has to be on, it has to be in the right place in order to be doing loop recording or doing any sort of loop playback. But in Luna, this is essentially kind of just a shortcut to be able to always come back to your home loop. As far as Matt, maybe, do you, any other uses or explanation for the loop ruler?
Yeah, I think you explained it perfectly. It's just a way to basically save a particular loop so you can do other stuff in the session and get back to that selection at any time.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So yeah, it's a handy shortcut. And if you find yourself, if you're kind of like me and you're like, I'm not, if it's just always contextual, why would I ever really want that one? If you're always working on long sessions, you want to take back your screen real estate, you can totally do that. So right over here, ... This allows you to, select what timelines you're looking at, and you can just turn off loop. It's not, if that's not part of your workflow, you can just hide that ruler and gain, I think I got 20 pixels back right there. So yeah, that's.
And one thing, Ben, that, pre-roll and post-roll are amazing features when you need them, but they're annoying as heck when you don't. So after you've done your punch in and you want to go, you just want to play it back, Command K is going to be your friend there, because that'll turn that off. Command K will toggle pre-roll and post-roll on and off, because typically, you need the pre-roll when you're doing the punch, but afterwards you just want to hear it, right away.
Absolutely.
That's a good key command to remember.
Yep. Command K. Don't forget it. That's good. Really good point. Thanks, Drew, for remembering that. Because that's the number one thing is after you do the punch, all they want to do is hear the part that you just did. So,
I don't want to wait those 4 bars again.
Exactly. Yep. So yeah, Command K just quickly enables or disables the pre and post roll. And I saw another, just slightly unrelated. So if you guys have any questions around looping and recording here, hit us up in the chat and we can answer that. But I wanted to touch on, someone was asking about tap tempo earlier, and I've often found myself asking, like, can I tap up here? Can I do that? And the answer is no. The BPM up here in the main toolbar, this is just for typing in the tempo. If you want to tap in, the real secret is come in here to the tempo ruler, hit the plus button, and then here's where you can find tap. So right now, if I were to do this, in fact, I will do it. I'm going to tap in a new tempo. I'm going to round it up to 102. It's going to add a tempo marker to where my playhead is, right here in bar 9. So my song is suddenly going to snap from 90 BPM up to 102 right on this spot. So, if that's what you wanted to do, that's how you do it. But if you're like me, that's probably not what you want to do. You actually wanted to change the tempo for your whole session. So what you'd want to do is you just want to hit return, or you can use the return to beginning button right here. So now my playhead is on the beginning of the session. Now I go into my tempo, tap 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 tap. No, that's asking for a crash. There we go. Not going to go 300 BPM. Type in 86, hit apply. Now my entire session is now at 86 BPM. And this was I'm stealing Matt's tip of the week thing, because there's some other modes inside of tempo. As you can see right now, I've only got a single point, so it just says edit. But if I select multiple bars, say from bar 1 to bar 3, notice how the tempo, this little focus area, the pane for tempo over here, now has not only add, but also add curve. So if you guys are trying to do, tempo ramps or slowdowns or speed ups, you can do that fairly simply. So you just select an area, hit plus for the tempo, and then you're going to get offered some options about the curve and also how quickly each tempo change happens, which I did not know until Matt showed us in office hours a couple months ago. So that's a really good one. Hitting on a Raven, nice. Can you drag a loop across the grid quickly? How do you drag a loop across the grid quickly? So I guess
control trim. Yeah, I think that's what they're asking for.
Like, the time stretch?
Yeah, trim warp. Yeah, real-time trim warp.
Yep, exactly. So yeah, what Drew said. So let me just make a new version here. I'm going to put my grid, I'm changing my grid from a beat up to a bar. So now, here's a drum loop. I've already stretched, it came in at the right tempo. It's at the top of the session. I probably built this track right around that. But now if I do control and grab this, the trim down here, it's now time stretching. There we go. Time stretch. There we go. So now it's compressing that audio. I took 4 bars and put it down into 3. So this is going to be all out of time. But let's go 4 bars down to 2. So now this is double time.
Double time.
It is
drum and bass mix.
Exactly. Yeah. It is. Here, let me put it into very speed here.
There you go.
Oh yeah.
Ben just invented a new genre.
So yeah, that's how you can do that from the beginning or the end, and especially it works obviously the best when you're pulling in loops that are not at the the tempo you're at. So often what you'll find is that they're like just a little bit past a bar, right? If you bring in a 125 loop on a 120 session, it'll be just a little too short, so you'll just want to drag it out. So the recommendation is to drop into the session, line up the downbeat onto a bar, control, trim it out, pull it to the 4-bar marker, and then you're good to go.
Super fast.
Easy peasy. Any way to change the metronome accent? Not in V1. The click is the click, but what you can do very simply is pull up, and I think we showed this last week or the week before, but you can pull up shape. Make a shape instrument. There's a lot of great percussion in there. You can create your own sound. You can create your own amount of accent subdivisions. So yeah, using an instrument or using shape specifically is a really easy, fast way to do it. And yeah, you can kind of draw and create your own click track however you like. How do I blow up audio waves to clean whatever noise may be in the audio? Speaking to my heart right there. So that is Option, Command, Bracket. So the key and bracket. Some people don't always understand what bracket is. Like you see the P key. The P is to the right of that are the open and close brackets. So those, if you do Option, Command, the left bracket makes them smaller. Right bracket makes them bigger. And absolutely, this is the best way to really zoom in. It makes it look like everything you do is clipping. Don't worry, you're not clipping. You're just zooming in to see the noise floor and kind of find any areas to cut. So yeah, that's the.
And then when you're done, Ben, you can add in control and hit the right bracket. And it'll reset it for you.
So Option, Command. So Control, Option, Command. So all three of those.
Yeah, and the right bracket.
And the right bracket resets it back to where it's supposed to be. And
Exactly.
then while you're at it, so the other one you can do is Control, Option, Command, up and down arrow. As you can see, that'll reset my zoom, but it doesn't reset the waveforms, which I really like.
Right.
I like being able to, especially when I'm in this cleaning mode. Often I find myself wanting to zoom back out to see my whole session. And then what I'll do is I'll grab, I'll be like, "Ooh, I see some noise to be edited." Grab that, select that area, hit the E key, and now it's expanded that. So all I see is this track here ready to edit. Take me out of snap mode, get rid of the noise, and then Control, Option, Command, down arrow zooms back out of the session. I guess I could have hit the E key there since I had focused in, but then now that I want to make it look like I didn't mess up my recording completely, Control, Option, Command, left bracket, and there you go. That's how you do it.
If you don't remember any of those,
separate too.
I was going to say, if you don't remember any of those, go to the keyboard shortcuts option in the help menu. You can get a quick reference.
Yep, exactly. Keyboard shortcuts right up here. Gives you the full list of all of the current keyboard shortcuts inside of Luna. All right. Was there any other questions around the loop? What am I using for the drums? That's a drum loop. It's a splice loop for this one. But why do they sound so good? Well, because I've loaded them up. So they've got some Studer, some 1084, some Pultec, some Vogue, some Distressor, some Avalon. I may have overdosed a little bit on it. I've pulled this. The session has been
nonsense.
I know,
nonsense.
Right? This session's been used in many an office hour, so it's probably nowhere close to when I originally started making it. But the other thing I love doing, and if you guys aren't already doing this, please try this out. The fact that Luna has pitch clip, so you can control the pitch of any clip in the timeline. What I often find myself doing, like even with drums, is for like a verse to a chorus, just changing the pitch a little bit, either dropping down or stepping it up a little bit, gives you that. It changes up the energy just a little bit.
Little lift to the chorus,
And in this one, it's chilling down. So here, I'll play what this sounds like, just a bar or two. I think it sounds really good. So yeah, like the snare, everything drops and pitch together and just kind of it gets meatier. And so yeah, you can play it, even just little subtle settings, 3, 1.5. But also like I'll jump stuff up and down an octave all the time because it just adds such a cool tone and flavor to parts, especially loops. So like there's a keyboard loop in this session too that it was built around. So you can see here I transposed it because I didn't like the key it came in. So +4 semitones. But then when it gets to the chorus, it goes -8. So I'm basically dropping it, down the octave from where it is in the verse. Again, just having these controls at my fingertips, I find myself using them more and more now.
Yeah. And Luna, you can change the algorithm per clip, which is super unique. I think it's not you're not tied to the track. It's per clip.
Exactly. So what Drew's talking about there is you can double click on the track, on the clip name, and it pulls up the clip window, and here you can specify the warp type. So you can specify it over here on the left hand side, where the main track settings are. You can say I want this to be polyphonic. But if for a certain clip you want to switch it up to vari speed, or you want to switch it to to razor blade, you have the option to mix your different algorithms, like what I'm doing up here on the drum track. Apparently, no idea where exactly I did it, but it's somewhere in there. It's a mixed amount of warps. And yeah, all right. Well, unless you guys have any other questions around like loop recorder stuff, I can show you here really quick. I'm having a chain reaction to that. Nice. I'm glad you guys are getting into this. Comping we touched on just recently, I believe.
Yeah, we've done it a few times. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Let me look back at my notes here. Looks like last time we did comping on Office Hour. Oh, it was a while ago. But we did just do it on Tales from the Switch. So if you guys want to see not only just comping from like the workflow point of view, but from like the how to comp with an artist looking over your shoulder and selecting performances beyond just the technical part of selecting which take you want, definitely check out the Tales from the Switch. That would have been either last week's episode or the episode before that. I can't remember. I think it was the
one before. Yeah, I think it was the one before.
We're fat, and it's at the beginning of the episode, so you'll find really quickly if they're comping or not. You can just skim through. But yeah, essentially, versions are the shortcut. You can record multiple takes, and then you just select, copy the area that you want, pull it up into your comp take, paste it. That's the 5-second version of it. But I would highly recommend watching Fab's version of that. Anything like Beat Detective yet? Not yet. So yeah, keep on hitting us with the feedback button. Let us know that you really would love something like Beat Detective, and the devs will hear about that. So yeah, guys, let me stop sharing my screen so we can see you all again. Guys, what a good show! Great, good Monday morning here. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Hope you guys enjoyed that. So we got the Ravel update, we got the LA3A update. Chatted a bunch about loop recorded, punching in, punching out, and yeah, tune in this week. We're back Tales for the Switch with Fab tomorrow. We're going to be cleaning up the session, getting it ready for mix and for some strings, and then on Thursday, Gannon and I are going to be doing a deep dive on the new Apollo Solo, and not just we're not. It's a simple interface. Trust me, we're not going to just talk about the interface and the specs of it for an hour or two. But what we're going to do is we're going to open it up. We're actually going to show you guys a bunch of recording chains and give you guys some ideas about workflows that are really suited for the Apollo Solo. It's a great portable interface. It's a great idea capture. It's a great for songwriters, for producers. So we'll show you guys some signal chains and some tips and tricks about putting the Apollo Solo to use for creating songs and sessions down the road. So yeah, that's Thursday morning. Don't want to miss that one if you guys are at all interested in the Apollo Solo, or even if you already own an Arrow or a Twin and you just want some ideas and tips on how to get the most out of your interface. Definitely tune in Thursday for that deep dive with me and Gannon. And with that, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you, Matt and Drew, for all the great tips and tricks and answering so many questions. We're here for you guys. If you guys have questions in between times, just hit us up on social media. Drew and Matt are all over Facebook, YouTube, UAD forums, everywhere you find about UAD, you're going to find Drew there answering questions nonstop.
That's right.
So yeah, if you guys have questions in between, just always feel free to hit us up, or just come back next Monday, and we'll also be here answering more questions. Make sure you guys, if you have music that you'd love to have us feature during the countdowns for these shows, just shoot us an MP3 to live@uaudio.com. We love featuring music from you guys. So yeah, if you got a tune that you want to see featured on our show, just hit us up. And if you have photos, if you got photos of your studio, we love seeing you guys' setups. So those, just post it on Instagram with hashtag Universal Audio, and we'll automatically be picking those up and integrating you guys all into our countdowns. So yeah, everybody have a great rest of your Monday, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.
Yep.
Bye, everybody.
Have a great week.
Peace.